Closer look at the top political headlines this week. And joining us are ABC White House correspondent MaryAlice Parks and our deputy political director Averi Harper. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Let's jump right into it. Averi, let's start with you because we're always talking about the election 2024, but there is an off-season one happening in 2023 and some big races, including the issue of abortion.
Right. I'm watching a few key races. There's two governor's races, one in Mississippi. The incumbent governor there, Tate Reeves, he's going up against a Democrat named Brandon Presley. Interestingly enough, he's a relative of Elvis Presley. We think of Mississippi as a deep red state, but that race is actually pretty close. And so in Kentucky, we're looking at Governor Andy Beshear. He's going up against a Republican there, Daniel Cameron, who has the backing of both of Senator Mitch McConnell and former President Trump. But all eyes are really going to be in Ohio, where voters there are going to be casting ballots on the issue of abortion there. Abortion is quite literally on the ballot, and folks are going to be looking at that race to see what happens in other abortion-related measures that we could see happen next year.
And we remember how it turned out in Kansas last year. MaryAlice, want to bring you in. President Biden, he visited Maine Friday to comfort the relatives still grieving who lost loved ones in the mass shooting with gun control, a major issue looking ahead to 2024. But he didn't call for a full-on assault weapons ban.
I mean, the White House has called for that. But you're right, this is absolutely going to be an issue, especially for voters under 40 who have had to grow up as a generation with school shootings. And we saw the president there in Maine. He did say that he thought there was consensus was ultimately possible. It's about common sense, reasonable measures. You know, even though he made these sort of remarks about coming together, there's a lot of gun safety advocates who just think he's not doing enough, that he's not using that bully pulpit, he's not talking about enough. Now, he thinks that Congress is not doing enough. He's asking Congress to literally do anything on this issue. And the White House is spending a lot of time instead, with nothing getting done on Capitol Hill, focused on the states, trying to help states pass their own red flag laws. And it's interesting that we're going to have this back in front of the Supreme Court again. Just next week, the Supreme Court is going to hear a case about whether a 30-year-old law that bans people who are under domestic abuse protective orders, restraining orders, can have a gun. And they're going to hear next spring a case about whether the government can, in fact, ban those bump stocks. Both those cases could just have huge implications.
Yes, such an important topic there. And Averi, let's go ahead and switch gears here and turn to Donald Trump, okay, because he faces those two lawsuits to keep him off the ballot in 2024. We already knew about the one in Colorado, but we also see one now in Minnesota. So what does this mean for him looking forward?
Right, Colorado and Minnesota are actually just the first states to hold hearings on this issue. We know that Michigan is actually going to start oral arguments later this week. And there's other states that can follow suit. This is all about the 14th Amendment. There's a clause in it, came about after the Civil War, where it says that if you are someone who takes the oath of office to protect the Constitution, and then you participate in an insurrection or a rebellion, that you should be barred from holding public office. And so there are legal scholars, including conservative legal scholars, who say that there are grounds based on Trump's actions around January 6th for him to be disqualified. We are going to have to wait to see what each of the states decides in this, but it's very likely that we're going to see the Supreme Court asked to weigh in.
Something to watch closely. Let's talk about gridlock on Capitol Hill. MaryAlice, let's bring you back in. We were talking about the speaker's race before, and now for people who maybe aren't paying that close of attention, it's confusing what's happening in the Senate over the military nominations, holdups over something, one senator involved, something that has very little to do with the military. Where do things stand now?
Yeah, one senator, Tommy Tuberville from Alabama, has put his foot down, and he is holding up, we're talking about nearly 400 promotions. I mean, these are military families, totally left in limbo. And right now, Republicans are starting to call him out, especially Republicans who are veterans themselves. They say this is reaching a breaking point. It is starting to put our national security at risk. Now, he is making this protest, making this stand based on the military's policy to let people have time off if they have to travel across state lines to get an abortion. They changed that rule after the abortion laws changed. And of course, the military was under a lot of pressure to offer a policy like this. You had women that were stationed in states where the laws were changing. So the Senate's probably going to have to change the rules. But I will say it was interesting. They did get around his hold up to make one pretty historic, hugely historic appointment just this last week. The Senate confirmed that a first woman to run the Navy, the top post in the Navy. She'll be the first woman on the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Wow.
Big move there.
Yeah,
they were able to do it once, which shows that they can also do it again.
They're determined.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, ladies, thank you so much. It was great having you here to
loved
have this little
this. This was
conversation.
amazing.
Great, yeah.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.